You would be wrong to tell someone to go produce something of value to trade for a natural resource that they need to produce something of value in the first place. In some cases, it may be a better option to do a cash crop. Then in some cases, they may try to produce something, falsely projecting how much it's valued by others, and waste their time and resources trying to please another unnecessarily. But a cash crop is necessary if we illegally block them from the resources by privatizing the lands. So just because you may be capable of producing the given resource for all people by your company's efforts alone, you may feel that others should direct their work efforts in other sectors. But what if they can't or don't want to? I mean, that's reason alone to leave them to do as they wish. Besides, no one person owns the resource which was mistakenly put up for auction by the government. Jobs and other opportunities in other sectors may or may not be available. They may not pay as much. They may be a bother to work for, or prerequisites too high for some people to fit in. So if one can't fit into the system, they should be able to provide for themselves with what they are entitled to, not scraps from the government handouts or low-wage jobs. All jobs must be filled in order for anyone to get rich in the system and the whole system to work. If all farmers quit for better jobs, everyone would have to get their own food, which would take time from you doing what is profitable to you. There would be none or a lot less doctors, lawyers, police, or any service workers if we all had to do our own farming, our own mining, manufacturing, fishing, lumberjacking, and so on. So why did Atlas shrug? Because they didn't know what the hell they was talking about. Because if we never specialized and depended on others to do the so-called low-level labor jobs, we never would have had a chance to industrialize, build the internet, and make robots. Intelligence doesn't put food in mouths, work does. So we have kids in Africa and all over the world starving. Why can't they build farms, kill animals, and feed themselves? Because the system we have doesn't allow them to. Because they can't make a product good enough for you to buy, they can't pay to own the land. The land is there, but just because of the price tag and taxes, they can't use it to feed themselves. That will change once we implement public access to all natural resources sites for free, so people can get the resources they need without paying, and we do that worldwide. We will do it in less than a decade because the world needs guaranteed work, if not to make trade revenue, at least to feed ourselves. If anyone needs to provide for themselves, this is where it will come from. So let anyone that needs to do it themselves do it. I mean, that's a 100% priority. No reason for people to starve. Socialism has valid points against capitalism, and capitalism has good points against socialism. None of which should cause a follower of either to not get commodities freely to pursue their economic choice. If you are a believer in true capitalism, then you believe that what a man fashions or possesses, he owns and is free to do what he wants with it. If you are a believer in true capitalism, then you believe in open competition to strengthen markets, to regulate prices, force creativity, and for better products and keeping producers from colluding to make false shortages to boost profits. You also don't believe in monopolies for the same reasons. If you know free market capitalism, you know that corporations, aka semi-public companies, prove to be the most efficient and are the leaders in most, if not every field and industry. With all this said, how can a true free market capitalist support privatizing natural resources? If you didn't create the earth, you're not free to privatize it to benefit over others. When we occupy a space, we ask that others not violate our space. If it's residential property or industrial or commercial property that you use, build on, others will recognize your work and respect it because it would never be there without human effort or is being occupied by subjects frequently. After that, we take from the earth. After that, what we take from the earth, we possess, but we can't claim ownership of what we didn't take already, plus didn't make. If we did, as in privatizing gathering sites, we would illegally be limiting competition from gathering. Because some resources are so rare and spread out, everyone can't have a mine, a pond to fish, a quarry, oil well, or a water well, or what have you. To give permission to one company is essentially to make a monopoly. Unlike land adequate to build on, which everyone can have an equal portion of that free resource, that's the main difference. The other difference is the gathering site is work already, compared with industrial and commercial land, which was work created by us. You can't argue the efficiency of a public entity in a free market. So making the lands public may prove best for us all. If you are a true socialist, you should believe in the power of us to help out each other without government regulation, force, or mandates. Respect and consideration should be shown to all who choose to hold back, whether it be for any reason, as we may not know the underlying morals of some. Plus, you should believe that given the opportunity, which will be open to all when we pass free access to resources, that one will do for self and learn how to fish so we can stop feeding them. Similar to what Peter Joseph did in Zeitgeist, uh, we are going to visualize a land where we start to do the new way, correction, the original way, but organized right for the first time. Okay, so a new age of pioneering begins. A group of contemporary pilgrims sets off on a voyage to an uninhabited land to apply this fair economic concept to practice. Let us start off with how residential properties would work in this system. First of all, residential lands aren't used to access natural resources, as I explained before. The land given out for free should be available till the last plot is zoned and the land is surveyed, planned out, and zoned with roads and utilities, then houses ready to be constructed. Since the first step requires people to work, the government would have to pay them, whether they be contractors or public employees. I suggest this because if we let people do it themselves, number one, it may take away from the integrity of what the zoning commission recommends. Number two, people will feel they completely own it, but that is more with the lands that will, what the fuck? People will feel they completely own it, but that is more with the lands that will be public, whereas residential lands will be private. Okay. The only negative side to government paying for prospecting, planning, and prep work is they need to recoup the costs. But for that, land is free and it won't. But for that, land is. But for land that is free, it won't come from the individual that is receiving the service. Maybe not at all, but definitely not initially. Why? Because without government organization, you would be free to do it yourself. But because the government wants it organized for all of our benefit, we can put we we can't put anyone in the position. Oh, sorry. We can't put anyone in that position where they may not get something that would have been free to them had we not put prerequisites on it, even if they may benefit from it. We may be able to recoup costs if necessary, as it is beneficial to them as well, and they may have done it themselves, meaning the public. Um, the new residential landowner may have just used time and energy to do it themselves, or paid another to do it. So they should be able to pay back either way. If they put in unpaid work time at a government operation, that would compensate for the time that it took ones that prepped the land, or they could pay cash. But I advise they not pay all, as the government has a stake in keeping things organized as well, and will be receiving funds from selling natural resources to pay for mainly oversight operations. Plus, some people may not deem the oversight necessary for some things. Next, people would have to prove they can use the land they asked for. We wouldn't want we wouldn't like underutilized properties, especially if sought after by others. So a time limit to start building and finish building would be in order. Um, People would go to local government offices, ask for and pick out a lot, and be awarded a temporary deed at no cost. A government worker would go by and check on a lot on the start build date and the build by date if the owner hasn't already finished building already and came back to get the inspection and final deed. There's more to it, but just to give an outline, the main importance is that these resources are free. Only one free priority would be given per person. So one piece of free land per person. Anything after that would be paid for using the auction system. You'd have to be of age and able to build, although building requirements would be scrutinized by municipality. All free land would have a minimum size, but would be would have to be uniform based on municipality. All other land would be put up for auction, including all waterfront, mountainside, larger lots, and any other special request property. Upon getting the deed, the owner is free to do any private transactions. Any liens, repos, or seizures would put the land back in government control for resale, but would be rare if at all. If needed at all, even if not utilized, regions should have land zoned for unregulated, untaxed housing or shanty towns. But in more developed countries, they would probably look more like trailer parks. Free from public utilities, except maybe electricity, like homesteading land, where people can live a minimalist lifestyle. It's true, people will want to live this way, and in America today, there are certain places where people do live this way. Also, tent cities would be regionally placed to accommodate travelers, and others that may use them. That should take care of all the private housing needs of all people. Now on to the public responsibility of residential occupancy.